you do, Normal Post 1975. This is a serious video. I tell you what, I understand that quite a lot of people probably didn't sign up for me talking about serious videos, so I'm going to do you a deal. From now on, any serious video I do that I don't think is related to issues on YouTube or anything related to my channel or anything generally, like I normally do. You see my channel, you see my videos, stuff like that. Anything I don't think is related to that is too serious, I'm going to put it up on a Wednesday. And that's it. From now on, why won't? Because Wednesday is my first day off. Second of all, if you don't like me when I do my serious videos, then you just skip my Wednesday videos. So from now on, I'm going to do my serious videos on a Wednesday. But there's something I want to talk about that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, and it's kind of recently come to a head, and it's quite scary. It's actually quite scary. Not just because of what's happened, but because of the implications it could have in the future. And that to me is quite scary. Make no mistake about it, it will affect democracy. You think I'm being too strong? Let me get to the point. So I know in the United Kingdom right now, I'm pretty sure most people around the world globally know the train wreck that is currently going on in Europe, in the EU, in the European Union. The number of countries at the moment that are on the verge of going bankrupt. I mean, that in itself, that a country can go bankrupt, is utterly scary, and the number of countries that are on the verge of defaulting on their debts, it is crazy. I mean, Greece is gone, Italy's pretty much gone. If Italy defaults on its debts, if they don't do something about Italy, it will drop Europe, like game over. Spain's on the verge, France is now on the verge, mainly because every time one of these countries goes, it's a ripple effect or dominoes, because other countries' banks are exposed to their toxic debts. So it's scary, we can't, I mean, from my personal point of view, what do I think of Europe? I, like many people in this country, are pissed off that we've never been allowed a voice on it. Whole generations going back, forever, have never been given a voice or a vote on Europe, and that's wrong. I personally think that it was incredibly naive when they formed the single currency to think that you could take all these different markets, all these different economies in different countries, and then just slap one currency across all of them. That to me was just naive, And then the other thing that annoys me about Europe is I don't like the fact that a single point in Europe, Brussels, can dictate your country's laws and policies, overriding your own elected officials. That to me just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, and I really, really don't like it. So if Italy, they don't do something about Italy, it's going to collapse Europe. It's going to destroy the single currency. They're going to have to start dismantling, Europe as we know it. Maybe just have core members and have countries outside that go back to their original currency. Personally, what do I think about that? On a selfish, personal level, I would love Europe to collapse. I think the whole idea is just run by corrupt idiots who are on the gravy train, lining their own pockets and just interfering in the lives of people they've never even met and never even been to their country. However, I accept that I have a moral responsibility to stop that happening, because if Europe goes tits up, make no mistake about it, the effect it will have on the global economy will make the last recession look like a fucking slow day at the shops. It will be devastating. It will be huge, and it will last fucking forever. So I get that we kind of have to try and save the euro, but my problem with that is we're going to pour all this money in, and we've been pouring all this money in, and every time we do it, they suddenly say, oh, when other countries going, it's not enough, now we're going to have to put more in. So apparently now we have to have €1 trillion bailout pot for any country that goes. Well, and it's a horrible thing to say, but it's going to go at some point. Whether it takes 5 years or 10 years, it's going to collapse. It's going to happen. So I just think it's incredibly short-sighted to pump all this money in when it's going to go. All these things they're trying at the moment, to me that's like sticking a band-aid on an axe wound. It ain't going to do fuck all. It's just a matter of time before you bleed to death. Right, now here's the bit that scares me, that I find not so much what's happening now, but like I said, the implications it could have. So when Greece first came to Europe, or the EU, they hid the massive amount of debt they had. They basically fiddled their books, and they've been running on an empty tank of fumes, for too long, and it hit the fan and they got called out on it. So what happened? the Greek Prime Minister was going to have a referendum on whether or not to remain part of the EU or go back, or default on their debts and go back to their old currency. So all of a sudden, this sends out alarm bells, like properly sends out alarm bells, like shit, if Greek defaults on its debts, then that's a whole other headache for Europe. Now at the same time, you got Italy that is been running on empty for a very long time. It's been writing checks it simply can't cash, and their Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, I mean, the fact that this was all going on underneath him and he really didn't care, he was too busy partying with pretty ladies and living a rock star lifestyle. Seriously, when this is going on his watch, to me just makes him one of the most incompetent politicians ever. But this is where things get interesting and scary. Now I get that both these prime ministers, this happened on their watch, and that's just sheer incompetence. I get that. But what Angela Merkel said, the German Chancellor, which is, we must go full speed to protect the interest of the Eurozone. So she basically made them both resign. And had them both replaced with pro-Europe technocrats to run the countries and, try and stabilise the Eurozone and fix them. Well, it's all well and good, but here's the thing, is big a bunch of idiots as the two previous guys were. These two new people, they were not democratically elected, and I find that scary. Whether it's in the best interest of Europe or not, I don't care. And I understand that both these countries have got no money. There still should have been elections. To put two people in who have not been chosen by the people of those countries, to me, is frightening. That's so undemocratic. It's frightening. Now you might say, well, it's in the best interest of Europe. Well, that's all well and good. But the thing is, it kind of sets a precedent, doesn't it? In the sense that, say these people, I don't know, fix the economies or fix those countries or whatever, will stop Europe going tits up. So there are free elections again, as there should be, democratic elections. And then two other people in each country get voted in. But then all of a sudden things start to decline again and start to dip, because there will always be recessions. There always will. So what happens then? Does Germany decide once again that, we can't let this happen, this is too damaging for the rest of the Eurozone, and then force them to resign, and then put two more people in? My point is, now that this is done, precedent has been set, it can happen again, and that's, as someone who believes in democracy and freedom of speech and freedom in general as much as me, that's utterly, utterly terrifying. And it seems to be happening, and no one seems to really care about this or understand the dark implications it has for everyone else in Europe. If it can happen here, then what's to stop Angela Merkel and the core European countries bullying other prime ministers to step down in the interest of Europe? Alright, now here's where it gets a little bit more frightening. So Angela Merkel was basically bullied the Greeks and the Italians into accepting two unelected officials to run their countries. However, one of her closest allies actually went as far as to say that Europe is now speaking German. And what they were essentially saying is that Germany is now, for all intents and purposes, deciding the fate of all member states of Europe, and basically affecting every single citizen in Europe. And that to me is frightening. Someone who believes as strongly as I do in democracy, that's utterly, utterly scary. And once again, it kind of makes me, I'm not bashing Germany, and I'm not saying this is like a war scenario. I'm just saying the simple fact of how undemocratic this is utterly scary, because once stuff like this happens, it always leads somewhere else. Someone will always say they're doing something in the best interest of everyone else, and probably genuinely believe it in themselves. But it's always gone wrong, it's always got out of hand, and I just find this whole thing utterly frightening. I don't mean to scaremonger, but it's just, I don't know, I think too many people don't seem to appreciate how, wrong and bad this is and where it could end up. But that's just my point. I just had to say something about it, because I was talking to my mates and they were all kind of like, I don't see any problem with this. And it's just like, when you start putting unelected officials into office, at that level, it always goes pear-shaped. It always goes pear-shaped, for the citizens at least. Anyway, that's my Wednesday rant.